Hello stunning fan, Michelle here. We're glad you stopped by. Today we're making some easy origami art that I'm going to use to decorate for Christmas above my mantle. The first project requires 4 sheets of 8.5 by 11 paper. I used white computer paper. You will start by cutting 3 sheets into 8.5-inch squares. Take one corner and fold it to align perfectly with the opposite side of the paper, and you'll have your square pattern. Stack all 3 squares together and fold them in half. Take your scissors and begin cutting a deep, thin triangle pattern out of the opened end of the paper, leaving approximately 2 inches uncut closest to the fold. Be careful not to cut the folded side of the paper. Open the squares, separate them, and lay them aside. Take the last sheet of paper and cut it into another 8.5-inch square. Now, take that square and cut it into 4 squares by cutting it in half and then in quarters. The cuts will be more precise if you fold the paper first and then cut along the fold. Stack 3 of these smaller squares and fold them in half, and repeat the process of cutting a deep, thin triangle pattern on these squares as well, like we did on the larger ones, but this time leaving at least 1 inch uncut closest to the fold. Open these smaller squares, separate them, and lay them aside. Now let's start with one of the larger squares for the folds. Lay the paper on a flat surface and start from one of the straight uncut edges and begin folding the paper accordion style with very small folds, approximately 1/4 to 1/3 inch deep. These folds will not line up with the triangle cuts that you cut, and that's okay. You will repeat the exact same folding pattern with the remaining 2 8.5-inch papers and the 3 smaller squares also. Next, run a small bead of hot glue on the inside of one of the accordion folds and press it to the other side to create a fan shape. Repeat this process with all the remaining papers. Next, run a bead of hot glue along the outside edge of one of the fan shapes and begin gluing all 3 together to create a circle. Repeat the same process with the remaining 3 accordion-shaped folded papers to create the second circle. If you're going to hang your origami starburst, run a bead of hot glue in one of the folds and press in a piece of twine or string to conceal it and use it to hang the origami with. Next, glue the smaller starburst onto the center of the larger starburst. Then, hang your handiwork and admire it. For the second star, I used brown cardstock that was cut into 6 2-inch squares. I folded each of the 6 squares in half and then in half again, forming 4 smaller squares within the square with the folds. Then I opened the squares and folded the squares in half kitty corner style so that the 2 corner points met, forming a triangle with the fold. Next, using the kitty corner fold I had just created, I pushed the 2 squares inward towards the center while pushing the other 2 points together to form a smaller square. This is really hard to explain with words, so you might just want to watch me do it a few more times. Once all 6 squares were folded, I used hot glue to glue each of the outer edges together till they were all 6 glued in a pile. We are a lifestyle channel that features a variety of content, from cooking, unboxing videos, to anything that can be a DIY style project. And we would really love it if you would like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can be notified the next time that we decide to share one of our projects. Once the squares were all glued together in a stack, this left me with 2 outer edges. With these edges, I glued one side of a 6-inch piece of twine to one side and then topped it with a piece of small square cutout paper to conceal the twine. Then I glued the other side of the twine to the other outer edge and topped it with another piece of small square paper to conceal that piece of twine. Once the glue was dry, I opened the star and slipped the twine through a wooden bead to hold it open and to add a cute decorative touch. Again, thanks for stopping by and have an amazing day.